If you had the opportunity to live in a children's wonderland, would you choose anywhere else? We don't just say, we do. It's the Stain City way.
Hello and welcome to Real Talk with me, Anele, right here on SABC3. The stage is yours. It is sad to note that South Africa has the highest rape cases in the world, but it is the victims who are left having to deal with the physical and mental trauma of this heinous crime that often leaves them feeling vulnerable and in some cases with diminished social confidence. Recovering from rape, however, is possible. However, it takes time, effort, determination, and support for the victim to be able to move past and to thrive afterwards. Our first guest, author and evangelist, Linda Maponyane, is here to share her story with us. Linda, welcome to Real Talk.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for getting hold of us and telling us about your book, Scars of My... Shadows of My Scars.
Yes.
Means out scars to my shadows.
A lot of people say
really?
that, don't worry, you're not the first one.
So, I mean, why write the book?
Many reasons. Number one, for my own healing, for my own, it was therapeutic for me. And then number two, for other women to know that they're not alone, to know that rising above rape is actually possible, and you can get there and become even better than what you used to be, maybe, before you encountered the rape.
So, when you've been raped, what do you want to be called? A survivor, a victim? How do we refer to you? Because I know that, you know, it is part of the healing as to what you refer to yourself as.
Yeah. Well, I'm a survivor. I survived not just the incident itself, but I survived everything else that it brought into my life, and that is why I'm able to stand among people, you know, and speak about it and shame it, you know, shame the deed, and speak of how I can become who and what God has called me to be in the end.
How was your childhood like? I know that you used to move around a lot, and that also had you having, I mean, for lack of a better phrase, like issues with life itself.
Yeah. Well, it brought a lot of sense of rejection for me, because I found myself moving around a lot. I stayed in Soweto, I stayed in Polokwane, Mulechi, and then I was back in Benoni, and then at one stage I was in Mokopane. So I literally lived in 7 households, my childhood life.
Is this living with the same people or being...
It's different people.
Different people. Why is that?
The moving was based on different reasons that were very inevitable. I mean, I've got no one to blame for this. The first move was because my grandmother was going on pension, because I used to stay with her where she was the nanny in one of our families in Soweto. And then when we got there, I had to stay with my great-grandmother. So when my mother got married, I had to move to Mokopane. And then after the first rape incidents in Mokopane, and now I moved with my parents to Benoni. And then when they divorced, I had to move back to Limpopo. So it was just in and out of the 2 provinces.
Yeah. So you say after the first rape incident, when did that happen?
It was, the first rape, it was in 1996.
Yeah, in September?
September 23rd.
Can you tell us what happened?
I was actually coming from church, and we were preparing for the annual conference at our church. So we had to go to church on the Tuesday so that we can be told what to bring, you know, the needs for the conference, your blanket, whatever. You know, the excitement where you're packing the clothes with your friends and say, I'm going to wear this one, shoes and all that. And on my way home from the church service, 2 guys decided to walk me back home. And I knew them. So you knew them? I knew them, yeah. They walked me back home, and just at the gate, exactly at my father's house gate, when we got there, I don't even remember what one of them said. And I just said to them, that's so you're so crazy. And that's where the problem started. You calling us crazy? I'm like, no, not in that way. You know, I just meant it like, you know, when you say, yazi Anele, you're so crazy.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
you could have said you're so silly. It would have been the same thing.
You know, and it sparked they got angry.
Both of them?
Both of them. They got angry and they dragged me to a forest from that point. And that's where they raped me. And I was 12.
How old were they?
Well, much older than me.
Yeah.
I don't know how old they were, but much older than me. Probably 21, 22, or even older. I don't know.
Did you have to see them after that?
Yeah, I saw them after that. I saw them throughout the court case. And that was it, yeah. I only saw them throughout the court case because they were actually arrested 3 days after the incident. They were arrested. And then from there, I saw them throughout the court case, and that was the end.
But you're a 12-year-old, right?
I'm 12,
so
yeah.
you kind of have to get told.
Yeah.
Yes, you're feeling that whatever's happening to you is wrong, but you have to get told that it is a criminal act. Who does that? Who became the adult in your life?
It's actually very funny that you're saying that, because most of the time when I preach, I usually talk about the one, do I say incident or one encounter I had with one of the elders whom I would have expected to tell me what you were saying.
Yeah.
And this person says to me, Linda, did you bleed? And at 12, yes, I bled. And then what? And she asks me nothing further than that. And only as an adult, it actually dawned me that this person was feeding their own curiosity whether I was a virgin or not. Oh. And that, I think that hurt me the most. Oh. But Mtomdala, why were you not concerned about my well-being?
Yes,
Am I sleeping well at night? Do I eat well? And all those other questions that you could have asked me. Or the reassuring, like you say, that Linda, what happened to you
is wrong,
is not right.
And this is how we are going to deal with it.
To help you. No, it wasn't that. The main question was, did you bleed?
To see if you are a last child or not, which is why kids do
or not, yeah.
Okay, so did you tell your mom?
Yeah, my mom was back at home the very next day. It happened on a Tuesday. On Wednesday, she was already in Polokwane. She arrived late at night.
And what did she say?
We didn't really talk about it. We didn't talk about the incident, but she did take me through to the doctors, and we went with her when I opened the case and all that. So she was with me throughout the entire journey.
But I mean, there's somebody being with you and then somebody being with you. Did you feel like she was with you through this? Or did you just feel like you had a guardian there and not necessarily somebody who now, when they walk in, you feel safe around?
Well, you do feel safe around them when you're a child. Okay. At that age, you do feel that mom is here, I can sleep here. You know, I can sleep until the morning without worrying and waking up and thinking somebody's knocking at my door. Yeah. So I felt that throughout the period when she was there. But unfortunately, obviously, she had to go back to work. And I had to now go sleep over at auntie's house until I felt safe enough to sleep alone at home.
So you said it's the first incident. 15 years later, once again, you felt victim to this. What happened there?
I was coming from church.
You?
Again.
In Polokwane?
And no, in Midrand.
Yes.
And this time around, I'm actually coming from preaching. I've just preached, like, we had a Friday service and we command, you know.
High spirits, the Lord.
You know what? And I'm dropping off a friend. And I remember when we got to the parking area, we were just catching up, you know, girls. We were talking about when are we grabbing the next pair of shoes or whatever. I don't even remember what we were talking about. But all I know is in a split second, I heard her say, you? And I could see the expression on her face that she just saw something scary or something she did not expect to see.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to carry on with this after the break. Wow. Wow, wow, that's a bit of a cliffhanger. Heartbreaking and it's shocking, and this is the reality that Linda faced. To join us after the break when we continue with this story, with the survivor, Linda. And welcome back to Real Talk. Today we're speaking to rape survivors. I'm currently sitting with Linda Maponyane, who wrote a book, Shadows to My Scars. And so far we've discussed her being violated when she was 12 years old. That was the first incident, as she says it, yet there was another one. You've just dropped off your friend from church and she exclaims, you, then what?
Then there was a gun on my head and a voice instructs me to go to the back of my car. And I'm not allowed to go out using the door.
You must climb through the seats.
Through the 2 seats. So I went through and I was instructed to kneel down so that when they drive around with us, people on the outside can see that there's actually 4 people in the car. So it's going to look like it's the driver, my friend, and the other guy at the back. So then they drove around with us for something that seemed like decades. You know, it felt like it's just taking forever. But I can tell you now that, you know, there was a still small voice inside of me that just kept on saying to me, they're not going to kill you. They're not going to, because that was my concern. I was like, yeah, no, today.
I'm dying today.
Like today, my mother must just start preparing, like it's over. And this small voice just kept on saying to me, they're not going to kill you.
What is this voice?
It's the Holy Spirit.
Okay.
And I invested on that, and I was like, okay, if I'm not dying, whatever that's going to happen, at least I'm going to have a second chance at life. And that's exactly what happened. When they got to this remote area, they stopped, and they literally took every valuable thing that was in my car, you know, from shoes to CDs. They unpacked everything, and at one stage, I was instructed to come out of the car. When they were doing the unpacking, we were just sitting there and just waiting to know.
Are you and your friend talking to each other?
We're not talking at the point.
You're not allowed to talk?
Well, we just shocked into silence, if I should say. And I remember when he came to the door and he said, come out. So we both came out, and he grabbed my hand, and the guy that was sitting with me grabbed her. And when we got to Eskanyeni, you know,
a ditch, basically.
When we got there, he says to me, I said to him that I can give you money if you release us. I can give you money. And before that, he had wanted my card, my bank card. And I had told him that I get paid on the last day of the month. And Sana, we had just gotten bonuses at that time. So suddenly, I'm saying to him that, no, we can give you money. I'm sure he was thinking, yeah, right.
But you said you don't have money.
10 minutes ago, he said you don't have money, you know. Anyway, he started beating me up. And then, because I'm trying to negotiate this thing.
It's your coping mechanism, bargaining.
Yeah. So I think I was irritating him because I was not fighting him. I was not aggressive in any way, even in my tone. So I think, I don't know, I think maybe I aggravated him because he just beat me up for that. And then he raped me.
Did your friend get raped?
Yeah, as well.
By the other guy?
Yeah.
So when did they release you guys?
I can't say after an hour or 2 or 3 because I really don't know how long we were there. But the very same night, they released us. They even gave us directions to go back home.
So, but they gave you your car?
They gave me back my car and they gave us directions to go back home. I'm like, that's how you want to get back home. Turn left, turn right, go straight, and you're going to know where you are.
So in the car, when you are now following these directions from Mr. Nice Man, what are you and your friend saying to each other?
She's not talking and I'm singing at that time. I'm singing that song that says, Kube wena waungenat.
So you felt like just getting raped isn't that bad if you guys got out alive?
I don't even think that I was thinking about the getting raped part. I was thinking about the life part.
Okay.
In my head, I was like, we are actually alive. We are actually driving back home. We are all in one piece. Maybe not spiritually and emotionally, but physically in one piece. And that's all that mattered to me at that point.
Do you think because you'd been raped before as a child when you were 12, and you had a bit of you saying, I can really survive this. This is, not that this is nothing, but this, I've been through this before and I've come out whole.
Actually, when it was happening, during the rape,
yeah,
I remember thinking to myself, Linda, the first time around, rape took so much away from you. I hated men. I couldn't talk to men. I was rough.
Yeah.
A man says, hello, baby, it's war. And at that point, I remember thinking to myself, I am now going to speak to the inner man. And I'm going to tell the inner man that we're going to rise out of this one differently. We're not going to rise out of it the same way that we did in 1996. And this is where I had to apply scripture. Remember, I'm a believer, so I had to apply scripture. And there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about the renewing of the mind. And I had to renew my mind right at that point. I had to tell my mind that, look, we are obviously about to get into a new journey, but this journey, we're not going to walk it the same way we walked it in 1990. This is going to be totally different. And the difference is you're going to get your life back. You're going to have exactly what you used to have. Nothing is going to be different.
And was anything different?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Yes, in a sense that you're obviously picking up the pieces of your life.
Yes.
You are now afraid to drive alone at night. You are driving and it feels like, you know, there's just a whole lot of things that happens. Somebody comes to your window, poor guy is selling
newspapers,
and they go knock on your window and you are at them, you know, things like that happened. But major things like hating men, looking at men differently, I refused to be locked in that. I refused, Anele, with everything that is in me. I said, God, that is not going to steal away anything from me as it did 15 years ago.
And that's how you survived it?
And that's how I survived it.
So when do you decide to write the book?
I decided to write the book in 2014. Actually, I wanted to write it immediately. I remember calling a friend of mine, Utuli, and I said, Tuli, buy me a journal. She's like, I'll buy it. Buy me a journal, I'll buy it. And I said, Tuli, do you know why I want the journal? She says, why? I said, I want to write a book about my experience. She brought it the next day. I think then she understood the importance of why I wanted.
Yeah.
And when she brought it, I started writing, and I think I wrote like 3 pages, if not 5 or whatever. And I just couldn't write anymore. It became heavy and heavy and heavy, and I just stopped. And it actually took me 2 years to write it. It wasn't easy. You write and you literally go through the journey again.
Yeah.
You walk through the streets of Soweto again. You walk through the streets of Moleji again. You see yourself being dragged again. You see the gun on your head again. So every single time I used to go, those emotions that really led me to go to places I didn't want to go, I'd stop. But I'd realize that the therapy is
kicking in.
Is kicking in. You know, everything is just coming out. I'm releasing something, as much as I don't want to face it, but I'm releasing it because I have to face it, not just for myself, but for many women that are going to grab that copy.
You know, I'm sure you hear this enough times, but I'm going to have to say it again.
Okay.
You are incredibly brave, and I really think that this is the one place women should go to if they find themselves in a dark place like that, because you're right. Well, you said this earlier, that I wanted other women to know that they are not alone.
Yeah.
So this is the first place I can go to. Linda, thank you so much for your time and for your story.
Thank you.
Her book is called Shadows of My Scars. Like I say, this is the one place you should come to if you are going through a dark place and you have no one to speak to and your only companion is silence. Make sure that you come here, Linda Maponyane. So remember to enter our weekly competition as well, where you can win yourself a 5,000 Rands e-gift voucher. It's all courtesy of At Home. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Real Talk. Today we're talking about a very sensitive issue that causes trauma to the victims, and sadly some end up locking themselves in a very dark and lonely place called silence. We're now joined by actress, director and scriptwriter Tapuwa Moore. Tapuwa, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for bringing your jacket to the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
I see what you're doing. So we were talking to Linda earlier, and she was telling us about the trauma of, you know, experiencing rape twice. And I understand from your situation, it happened over a prolonged time. Can you share your story with us?
I think in one of my writings, I wrote that it looks like rape. You're like a meat, you know, and then the guys would know their meat.
Yes.
Which meat to go to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I felt like I was attracting it now. Like, goodness, it happens at 5, 7, at 9, at 15, 13 at one point with the boys I was playing soccer with, test driving me, test driving my stuff, you know? And then when you get older, it becomes that moment of saying, what the hell? Okay, I'm going to drink this out of my system.
Okay.
I need me. I need me in my space. I need to numb it. I need to at least be a functioning alcoholic so-and-so, you know. So at one point, I had to stop. I had to stop, especially, I think, at the first performance of the Vagina Monologues in 2010.
Oh, that was your outlet?
Yeah. And I was like, ew, okay, this is what we're dealing with. I think I'm going to go to rehearsals very tipsy to cope with it, because it was starting to come out. Because I really wired it somewhere in a very dark place where I wouldn't even remember. Then comes 2011, I just went alcohol cold turkey, because the anger was just boiling. It was rage. You talk to me, Anele, you have to think twice. I'll be like, Inge? What? It's whether it's men, it's women. I walk around with an okapi. And the language, because I like saying, I even had, I would dress up in my footsack look. You know, like, don't even go there.
Don't even try me.
Don't even try me. Because I've had it so many times. It was hitting down to my womb. It was hitting right to the core of it.
So you said it happened at 5, at 7, at 9, and at 13.
13, 15, between 13 and 15. And then it stopped. Then somewhere in my late 20s, early 30s, it happened again. And now, you know, when you wake up in the hands of a cousin, because it's in Duana, let's go have some beers after the gym, you know, I'm like, ah, man, get safe.
It's my cousin.
My cousin, my mother's cousin, you know, get safe. And then I'm going to sleep in Khono's room when, you know, round about 11-ish on that day, on that Saturday, like, dude, I didn't have food. But I think I need to go rest in the house. You know, in his house. And then I went there, slept, I'm woken. Actually, somehow, you know, when you wake up, the body wakes up, and then his mother's watching him on top of me. And then I had to jump and like, Futsek, did you use a condom? You know, because now it's like, what? I had to work with the family, because now with the family, it's a lot of women. They're like, hey, she was having sex with Joe.
And you're like, no, it wasn't sex. He was forcing himself on me.
They were not even taking it. They were not even taking it. It's like, aren't you a lesbian, Ganti? Aren't you this? And I became the talk of the town. Everybody knew that I slept with Joe. Yo, that girl who plays soccer, the lesbian one, the one who runs, that boy, Mshimanyana.
Yeah,
you know. So I went down deep into drinking after that, because now I even tainted the family. Home, I cannot go and because no, you're just there, so you're dirty.
So this is your aunt. When you were 5 and when you were young and you were 7, you were 9, where were the adults when you were being raped?
My mother's at work.
Does she
was
know
out
it happened?
there. She doesn't. You don't talk about such things. I shelved it. At one point I was playing. I think the first one, which I remember quite clearly, around about 5. It was some winter towards springtime. The school were closed. And the guy, not far from my house, I was running with the boys, and then somehow I ended up in the yard. And he took me and then took me to the bedroom, did what he did, and then after he's dead, gave me a bag. I left. I'm a kid. I can't explain. I shelved. Comes in the dining room of my house with somebody I would call a brother and his friend, who I still regard as a brother even when I greet him today. In the dining room, test driving yet again. Opposite my house, in the bedroom, another. It was 9, I think, because I was not yet in like grade 5, you know. It was still primary, you know. And when it was done, takes me out through the back door, go back to my house. So it becomes such instances.
And it's almost like they put a lot of shame on you. And that's why you would keep quiet, because they shamed you into silence.
Yeah. So how do I speak about it? Well, I'm still trying to figure out about being Mwanyana Mshiman. Because I've never seen anything like me, you know, until somebody at 11 or 10, like, I guess taban, you know. Oh, wow, that's what I am. Okay, how do I go back home and ask my mother, what's that? I'll get a clobbering of my life.
So how did joining Vagina Monologues, how did it help you heal? How did it, you know, make you this person who can sit and talk about it with such ease after being shamed into silence?
I do not know about the Vagina Monologues, because I needed to discover what is this thing that I have that I failed to connect with. So I read it, I joined the Vagina Monologues, I started becoming a director there. And somehow something about it drew me to it.
Yeah.
Like, no, this is a very, very precious thing that you have. And maybe somebody wants to take it away. Maybe somebody wants you not to relate to it. Maybe I do not know what evil mind goes into those who rape. I'm not even going to try to figure it out. It's not my business.
Yeah.
You know. So it was the Vagina Monologues from 2010 until, I think, last year. And it got to a point, I'm silly like that, where I started doing solo performances of 5 to 6 women. Yes, because I needed to discover what is this.
Yes.
That we as black women, we cannot even mention Kalibitso.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, why are we so afraid? Whereas in our world, in lived realities, it's where a lot of angst happen for a lot of black women. HIV, STIs. You know, it's, you see, rape, rape of children, grandmothers. Yet we cannot even mention it.
We're not allowed to talk about it.
We're not allowed to
act like it's something that's not
there. It doesn't
there.
exist. I could see my mother looking at me like, but I can't ask her, Marie, what's this actually? What do you call it? Come up with names, funny names. But the real name?
Rape.
Yeah.
Thank you. Listen, Tapuwa.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming through.
Yeah.
And please continue with the wonderful work that you guys do with Vagina Monologues. I think that you literally put it on blast.
Yeah.
Put it on blast. Don't ever turn the volume down.
Yeah.
Don't ever turn the volume down.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. After the break, we'll speak to Karen Howell from the Tears Foundation. Do join me. And welcome back to the show. If you have just joined us, we're talking about the scourge of rape and its effects on the victims and how they managed to pick up the pieces after the violation. Joining me now, I have a survivor, and her name is Karen Howell from the Tears Foundation, I believe.
Yes, I help support them.
Oh, thank you so much for giving us your time. So you were, I'm just going to go into it. You were violated when you were much older than our other guests that have come to share their journeys with us.
I guess I was 44. It's 6 years ago.
Oh, that's very recent.
Sometimes it feels like it was yesterday, and sometimes it feels like it was a lifetime ago.
Can you share with us what happened?
Well, my journey started 3 days before the actual rape. I was at home and I was about to take my daughter, who was then 5 years old, to nursery school, and my car battery was dead. I'd forgotten to turn off lights or whatever. But it was September, it was the 5th of September, beautiful spring day, so we decided to walk to school. It's a mere 400 meters. Off we go to school, drop her off, walk back. I was working from home at the time, and at about 3:45 I'd had enough, and I still hadn't had my car fixed, but I decided to go fetch her. And I was walking, and I was WhatsApp wasn't in those days, it was BBM or whatever it was. And this man walked past me, and I suddenly just got the shiver for no reason. Well-dressed, Manchester shirt, pair of jeans, and immediately noticed that he wasn't a scruffy dude on the side of the street. Anyway, within a couple of seconds, I had an arm around my throat. I was thrown down onto the ground, not, I don't know, 100 meters from the school. And one would have thought it was 3:45, parents would be coming and fetching their children,
There'd be traffic.
nannies would be coming to fetch kids, whatever. There wasn't a single soul. Anyway, he threw me down on the ground, and he had a 30-centimeter knife at my throat. How he had this hidden away, I have no idea. And it was all for my cell phone, but I could see the malice in his eyes, that I eventually just threw the phone down, and he happened to run through an open veld out onto a main road. Anyway, I went screaming into the school and all the rest of it, and shaking like anything, and it turned out I ended up being taken home by a teacher in their car. 3 days later, I was home, and I actually hadn't been feeling well, so I went to go and lie down. It was about 1:45, I suppose. I went to go and lie down, and the next thing I heard a door slam in my house, and I sat up straight on my bed, knowing something was wrong. Whatever possessed me to walk down my passageway, I don't know, but I did. And there was the same guy that I ended up calling Manchester, because he had a Manchester United shirt on, and another guy in my living room. And I went, "You gotta be kidding me. You've actually got to be kidding me." Now, he couldn't have followed me because I'd been driven home in a car, and he'd run up through a veld.
Yeah.
And I said to myself there and then, I said, "You've chosen the wrong person to do this to you. This is not happening. You are not going to get away with this." I don't know what made me say that, but I was determined that they were not going to get away with this. Anyway, I was dragged around my house a lot, in the cottage and all the rest of it. I was tied up so tightly that I would bleed. It was with like a nylon rope. And eventually, when they knew they couldn't find anything of real value, they took me through again to my bedroom and threw me down on my bed. And I knew what was coming. So again, I think it was like Linda trying to negotiate and trying to, you know what's coming.
Yeah.
So I said to the guys, I said, "Come on, I'll take you to an ATM and I'll draw whatever money you want." That fell on deaf ears. I then said, and these were my exact words, "Before you rape me, there's something I need to tell you." And Manchester said to me, "What?" I said, "I've got AIDS." "Where's the condoms?" I said, "Well, I don't have any condoms." He says, "It doesn't matter." And he proceeded, I tried to fight him, whatever, and eventually I knew I couldn't. I was now in a situation where I knew there's two of them, I've got knives at my throat, I've got one on my chest, I've got a baby girl that only has me. So it was a case of just do what is said, no matter what happens. And well, they took their turns violating me, and then carried on rummaging through the house, and then I'd actually locked the security gates. And I had now, the guy threw a blanket over me and said, have a sleep, rest now. And I went, "Really? You've just raped me. Two of you have just raped me, and I must have a little nap. You've got to be kidding me, right?" Anyway, I managed to undo the tires and what have you. And I got dressed, and I went to my front gate, and I locked it, the first security gate by my bedroom.
Have they left the house now?
Don't know. Have no idea. Then I realized I've never ever locked my security. I've been in that house for 7 years. I've never tested. Now I'm going, what if they get the other key from the other security gate and come back? So you can imagine all the thoughts going through my head. The next thing I see the other guy walking round and around my house. I'm now dived into my bathroom. I'm flat against the wall because I don't want them to see me. I can hear nothing but my heartbeat. And I'm wondering what is going to happen. Why is he back? Does he think his other friends in there? I don't know what. Anyway, when I say God is with you, there was a cat that was almost a feral cat lying on my lawn, and I could see him or her. I don't even know what it was. And I knew then that they had gone. And I literally unlocked the gate, and I ran through and I bolted over my neighbour's palisade. There was a slate that was missing, and I just dived over that to the next door neighbour, screaming and yelling.
Did you cry at all?
No.
Have you ever cried about it?
I've had my moments.
Okay.
I've had my moments, yeah.
Because I'm looking at you're quite strong, right? And you tell it, and you've owned yourself, and you like that was their problem, not mine. They're the ones who, who violated me. I am not going to live with it. So it looks like that's the path you've taken.
And I'll tell you another story, Anele. I just stopped smoking 34 days before this because I'd had 2 pulmonary embolisms in my lungs 5 months before. And you know how tempting it could have been to start smoking again after. None of my mates would have said, "Corin, what are you doing?"
Yeah, because you're allowed to. You went through this thing, so you're allowed to
fall back onto something. And I said to myself, if I start smoking again, I'm giving them the power over me. They're not going to care. So you had to take ownership and with how you were going to deal with it. And my way was, I was going to get you. Come hell or high water. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but that was my MO. Somehow it was going to happen.
Did you get them?
Yes.
How?
Both of them. So, okay, off to the police station, that was a nightmare all on its own. And I've learned so much through the journey of what a victim of any crime needs to do.
Yeah.
And it's by the grace of God, I believe, that somehow I was told and taught, and I could fight, and I had investigating officers chucked off my case, prosecutors chucked off, brigadiers chopped and changed because they were just not doing the basics.
Yeah.
And I said, they had said to me, "We're going to come back for you." And I told the police this. They're just trying to intimidate you. I said, no. Exactly a week later, on the 15th of September, the other guy, not Manchester, was sitting across the road from my house. Again, I was about to take my child to school. Well, there was no walking now. Well, I bolted down to the school, got them to call security and what have you, but it was too late. He was gone. Another 2 weeks later, I'm now at the hospital because I'm getting ARVs and my medication for the embolisms. But I'd started creating a network. I wanted to find out what was going on in the suburb. And now I'm thinking, I had this one guy, the police didn't come in time. He's probably told his mate, but now they're gone. But something said just keep going, communicate with people, network with people, talk to everybody that you can, which is what I did. And I'm sitting, having a cup of coffee with a friend I hadn't seen in about 10 years. Next thing, my phone rings. Ma'am, come quickly. Murphy's Law. Every truck's in front of you, every robot's red, you just want to get there, but you don't know what to expect. And I just said, Corin, calm down, you don't know what to expect. And my one neighbour was outside on the pavement. I said, please jump into the car with me. And there was a security van and a police van, literally 300 metres. My house was sort of here, T-junction. I get there and there's a police van, and I tell, she was actually a female police officer, and I told her the story, and I said, I want to see who's in the back of that van. They kind of said, okay, not much interest. Open it. There was Manchester, the main dude. Well, I couldn't even hold a phone. I went into such shock. Anyway, I closed the van up again. They say, okay, you've got to come to the police station. All fine. I can't drive. I'm in such a state.
Yeah.
My next door neighbour takes me, but she says, I can't bring you back because I've got to take my child to the doctor. Police officer says, don't worry, we'll bring her back home. I get there. I sat for 2 hours in Anele with not a single person taking any notice of me. Eventually, I found a lift with a stranger and went back home. Now, the problem with that is that you can't charge somebody with rape for attempted housebreaking, which is what he was trying to do. And if my statement didn't link to my rape, he could have just walked. The next day, my investigating officer says to me, so where's the suspect? I said, what do you mean, where's the suspect?
You should know that.
No, I don't know, but he'd been moved to another cell. But I mean, the adrenaline that just went through me was like being raped all over again. Then another couple of weeks go by. Okay, he's now in custody. Another couple of weeks go by, and I see my other dude that had been sitting across the road from me. He's now going through trash cans. I've got my daughter in my car again. The police had given me their sector vehicle numbers in the event to phone. I see him, I phone both of them are on voicemail. I'm going, are you kidding me? Anyway, somehow I dig deep and I remember the police station's main desk.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remain calm and say, my daughter's in the car next to me, 5, and I'm trying to explain the story. And they say, okay, we're on our way. And now I'm driving around.
Karen, I have to cut you short. We have to go, but I just need to know the end of the story.
Okay, well, I had them caught, went to court. It took me 2 years. I literally fought my own court case. One went to jail for 40 years and the other one for 59. I created history in South Africa as a single state witness.
So as we speak, they're in jail?
Yes.
That is a true story of a survivor. Karen, we need to get you a cape. Thank you so much for coming through and being a true beacon of strength and hope. We will be right back. And welcome back to the show. We are now joined by clinical psychologist Khosi Jiyane. Thank you so much for coming back. The last time you were an absolute hit, by the way.
Oh, really?
Marriage
Thank
proposals from everyone. They were just like, there's a person who
How come
speaks
they never got to me?
Yeah, I'm jealous, so I kept it to myself,
right.
Khosi. I'm jealous. So, do you know what I find about rape survivors? And I mean, I have friends who've gone through rape. And when they choose to say that's something that person did, it will not live with me.
Yes.
That's when I see a pure survival mode. Would you agree that that is the way?
No, absolutely. I think, you know, I mean, as they were speaking, I found myself not breathing.
Yeah.
You know, as though this is happening vicariously. You know, I can experience that.
I was in that field.
Yes.
I saw it happen.
Yes.
Eh?
And I can then imagine the intensity of that experience for them at the time. But absolutely, it is that distance that begins to say, it's about creating your boundaries, creating and reclaiming and re-owning yourself, your body, your life. And it is about giving perspective to this as, my life is a loaf of bread, this is a slice. It doesn't define the bread. It is a slice of experience. As traumatic as it is, it will not define me.
So how do you know that you have done a proper job at creating those boundaries, that this is not going to come live here? Because sometimes you can mistaken that and think that it's done. Meanwhile, all you've done is just suppressed it and you didn't face it head on.
It is a journey, you know, and nobody's experience will speak for everybody, but healing is a journey, it's not an event. The rape itself is an event, but the process of healing from it is a journey. And we talk about, there's no flight to health as such. And I think even as Linda in that moment realized and got to that point of reclaiming it right now, there is still a going back and forth. Sometimes you take 3 steps forward and you think, right manje, you know, this is sorted, I've got it buttoned down, and wake up perhaps one day or just suddenly out of the blue, it hits you, as Karen was saying, as though it happened yesterday. So it is a process, it is a journey. There is no straight line through it all. And
for people who are friends and family of rape survivors, what should our role be?
I think one of the most important things is to be on the side with the person, to allow them to have their experience, to let them tell you what they would find supportive. Because sometimes we are coming out of our own issues and we want you to talk about it because it helps us deal with our own inadequacy or our need to support you and so on. Whereas that person may not find that supportive at the time. Because someday they may want to talk, but another day they want you to just listen.
But Karen was saying that she'd recently quit smoking and you know, her friends would have understood if she'd started smoking again. In that instance, can people who are being supportive, can they ever be detrimental to the journey that you talk about?
I guess there is, because I think there's a line of destructiveness that you can then enter into and just spiral into a darkness.
And become an enabler.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And spiral into a darkness where you actually aggravate. And in a sense, I don't want to say that, but I think this will make the point quite clearly, where you then end up raping yourself by going into a destructive mode. And one of the things, at some point, as much as I want to say you need to respect the person's journey, at some point there has to be, you have to wake up from this. You have to wake up from this and come back to the self. Yeah. Because there was a you before this incident. Yeah. And there needs to be a you that continues this journey.
So what about a child like Tapuwa, who was raped repeatedly from 5, 7? I mean, how do you know who your you was when you were 4 years old before you suffered this?
Absolutely. Then, you know, life is not so much about discovering, it's about creating. Creating. You know, who do I want to be? Who do I believe I am? What do I believe I am entitled to becoming? And it is about having to learn to dig that deep. To say, in spite of all this, if the self that I think I was has been broken into, vandalized so much, which of this do I want
to keep?
Yes.
What do I want to nurture? What do I want to grow?
Absolutely. You want to acknowledge that it happened, because it did happen. There's no point in denying that it didn't happen. It happened to a body that belongs to me. But when I say, who is the me that says this body belongs to me? It is non-physical. That is a part of you. There is a part of you that no rapist will ever get to. And it is about being able to take yourself to that self, the core of who you are, beyond the physical body.
Whew. This is why they have a crush on you, Khosi. This is why they say bring her back every week, man. Khosi Jiyane, clinical psychologist. That is all we have time for today. And I want to end it on that note. You know, who is the me that is saying this body belongs to? Oh, thanks to all my guests, Linda Maponyane, Tapuwa, Karen Howell, as well as Khosi Jiyane, for coming through as a clinical psychologist, giving us her psychological insight. And it is always so light and refreshing. Thank you to you at home for tuning in. We'll do this again tomorrow at 5 p.m. Bye-bye. Yo.